Welcome to the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, the #1 YouTube channel for you to level up your communication skills, learn the art of public speaking, social skills, and personal branding to take your message to the world. For today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the 5 core human desires. So when you want to commit to a certain communication skills lane, whether it be public speaking, social skills, building a personal brand, etc., in the initial stages, you're going to focus a lot on the surface level stuff. Well, what kind of words do I use? How do I stand? How do I make my voice sound in order to be liked? These are all surface level concerns. But after a while, when you start investing into your skill set of choice, you're going to start getting deeper and deeper and deeper. I've lived in Florida for a good amount of my life, and during my time in Florida, I've noticed a lot of different personalities. Some people are nerdy, some people are funny, some people are a little strange, some people are gothic, some people are very, very rude, etc. A lot of different personalities. Well, one thing that Florida is known for is always having close calls with hurricanes. And typically, when we would hear from the news that a Category 5 hurricane is headed our way, a lot of these different personalities, their differences would start to melt away and their similarities would start to rise. Around that moment, all of us individuals started to figure out that there was something much, much bigger that was headed our way. A Category 5 hurricane, that's the highest level of hurricane. That's intense. And that's when we start to understand that humans alone, we can go so far, but eventually there's things much bigger than us, which is included in Mother Nature. Well, guess what? In communication skills, there's things much, much bigger than the words, much, much bigger than the tonality, how you stand, etc. And that is called human nature. That's how you start learning the deep levels of communication skills. You start to realize that the more that you invest in a certain communication skills lane, understanding subjects like psychology, emotional intelligence, social intelligence, neurology, those kind of stuff are much, much more important than learning about grammar. It's much important. And one of the best ways to learn about human nature is to understand the 5 core human desires. For the longest time, I've heard about these different desire lists, and typically it's so many different desires that are thrown my way. I typically see a list of 16 different desires. And for some reason, it never felt intuitive. I just couldn't get a good grasp on it. But after reading the book Personal MBA, there was this author named Josh Kaufman who said that there were 5 core desires where everything else builds from. And if you want to understand human nature on a deeper level, so you can communicate on a much deeper level, then it's very imperative that you start understanding all of these 5 different desires so you can give value to someone. In the knowledge era, different brands are giving value in different ways. And you may have noticed that yourself. You may have come in touch with a certain blogger where right after they were done, you thought, I feel good. I feel as though that I got a good investment back from reading this blog article. Did you ever wonder why that was? Did you ever wonder why they gave you value? Or better yet, how they gave you value? Well, that's very important, not only to build a brand, but to build a profitable business. And that's exactly what I'm going to be teaching you in today's episode. I'm going to be talking about the 5 core human desires. And from there, I'm going to be talking about what does it mean to provide value and how you can do that effectively through correct usage of your words. So, the 5 core human desires. And by the way, this isn't in any particular order. I'm just going to list them out from beginning to end. The first one is the desire to learn. Humans naturally, we are curious creatures, and when we're curious about something, we want to know it. Have you ever had that one friend who said, "You wouldn't believe what I heard," and you ask, "Well, what? What is it?" And they say, "Oh, never mind, I can't tell you." At that point, you're thinking, well, why the hell did you bring it up in the first place? And it's tough for you. You feel a gnawing feeling, all right? That right there is a desire to want to know what your friend has to say. And this form of desire works in many different ways. If you have a huge life goal ahead of you, then you typically want information that helps you aid closer towards that life goal. And even if you don't have a life goal, your brain is naturally going to get curious. You'll typically get very curious about gossip, for example. Gossip right there is a desire to want to know, a desire to learn. So this form of desire is to suck up information that your brain is seeking. The second form of desire is the desire to acquire. Acquire what? Well, you could acquire something that's tangible, or you can acquire something that's intangible. Tangible, it could be something like you wanting that latest BMW that just came out. You really, really want it. You could feel it. That is a tangible desire to acquire. But the intangible, that's a very unique one as well. Picture a shy kid who hates public speaking and has massive speech anxiety, but keeps on going to Toastmasters meeting week after week after week. Why is that? Why are they taking action despite all that fear? Because they are operating with a desire to acquire. They want to acquire confidence, influence, a certain level of power. That right there is an intangible desire to acquire. So that's the second one. The third one is a desire to bond. So humans naturally are social creatures, so they like to form connections with one another. And typically in these relationships, it could be something from a romantic relationship, a friendship, it could be something with family, but in any of these different fields, the human is looking to form a bond. And here's the unique part. Typically, humans want to form bonds where they feel valued, but hypothetically, say they don't feel valued. Well, a lot of the times, the human will still be in that relationship with the other individual. Why? Because humans also like familiarity. So that's why typically when you see that one person who keeps going back to that other toxic person over and over again, that's because they're operating with a desire to bond with the other human who they feel familiar with. It's not always logically explainable, but like I said earlier in the video, desires cannot always be explained with logic. That's the third one, the desire to bond. The fourth one is the desire to protect. Protect what? Well, protect a lot of different things. Your possessions. You don't want someone just coming in and taking it. You want to protect your possessions. Yourself. That's a huge reason why the karate industry is so popular. I used to do karate growing up, and one of the main reasons why was the desire to protect myself. If you have a big family as well, you want to protect your family, your name. Say you have a certain personal brand and someone's lying about you, spreading complete falsehoods, well, that's the desire to want to protect your name. So it doesn't always have to be physical. It could also be intangible as well. And the fifth one is the desire to feel. Feel what? Well, you could feel pleasure. You could feel humor. And some people, they like to feel scared. I mean, why do you think a lot of these individuals go watch horror movies? They watch horror movies because horror movies create a certain stimulus within them. And even though they know they're not actually in danger, they like that physical sensation that they're feeling. Another desire to feel is just a gentle touch. You'll notice charismatic people are very quick to give you a gentle touch. You don't want to overdo it because then it comes off creepy, but a gentle tap on the shoulder every now and then subliminally fulfills a human desire. And that right there are the 5 core human desires. The desire to learn, the desire to acquire, the desire to bond, the desire to protect, and the desire to feel. These 5 human desires make up a huge level of human nature. Now, with all this information that you have, that's not it. The next thing you want to ask yourself is, well, how do I capitalize on it? How do I become a better communicator with the knowledge of these 5 desires? That's when you want to provide value. What is value? I feel like that word just gets thrown around all the time. Like, you got to provide value. Just give this individual value. Well, what is it? What it is when you help someone with their desire of choice. So let me just give you an example. Imagine that 6 years ago, you quit your job and you started your own business, and now you're doing very, very well off for yourself. Well, you have a friend right now who hates their job and is not doing too well. They feel as though it's a dead-end job. They're not maximizing their life. And a part of them wants to quit and start their business, but they have no clue where to start. So in this scenario, you know what you can do? You can use your words to fulfill 2 of their desires. the desire to learn and the desire to acquire. They want to learn the online business and they want to acquire an online business. If you can specify information that appeals to that individual to hit those two desires, then you have just given them value. You have raised them up. But remember, this all goes with context, because if you're getting that same advice and you're giving it to someone who loves their job, they just got a promotion, they just had a celebration party, they feel like they're on top of the world, and you're over here giving them tips on how to start their own online business, they'll think, well, why the fuck are you telling me that for? I don't care. Get away. So for you to give value to someone, you also have to first evaluate their desires, because good advice to the wrong person equals bad advice. But what a lot of people try to do is they go straight for the advice. But if you're giving just good advice in your context to the wrong person, then they're actually getting annoyed by you. They think, dude, why are you rambling for? Just get to the point. So in order for you to get value to someone, what you want to do is you want to understand who they are. Typically, you'll start to notice something. This is a pattern that I've personally noticed. I don't know if it's with everyone, but one pattern that I've noticed is that when people are all over the place, they're very, very worried. That means they're trying to tackle a bunch of these desires all at once. And for these individuals, it's typically harder to see where they stand. But what I've also noticed is people that are more calm, more grounded, they're typically chasing that one big desire at this moment in their life. And a lot of the other desires are still there, but it's been pushed back a little bit for this one big desire. And these individuals are much easier to spot. Typically talking to them for a little bit of time, you'll notice from their tonality what excites them. And that's when you can target in on that and give as much value as you possibly can. You could either teach them something, you could help them protect themselves on a certain thing. If you're a lawyer and someone's getting sued for something, you could give them certain advice. That's them protecting their brand name. You get the point. But the first thing that you want to understand is, what desire is this person operating with? It's much easier in lower scales, by the way. If you're giving a speech in front of 10 people to a bunch of 40-hour a week workers that are looking to become entrepreneurs, then it's much easier to already know what their desire is to elevate them. But if you have a YouTube channel, for example, now it becomes much harder, because say 10,000 people are watching your videos. Well, how are you going to know the desire of all 10,000 people? In those sort of scenarios, you need to flip the situation back to you. This is the perfect time to evaluate your desires. What is it that from these 5 that you're chasing? Is it one? Is it multiple? Well, once you spot those desires, create content around that. And when you're creating content around that, you're telling stories about your genuine desires, you're displaying authenticity. And what's going to happen is you're going to be doing attraction marketing. Other people are going to have similar desires like that as well, and they're going to be coming towards you. One of the examples I gave you earlier was of the shy kid that wanted to learn public speaking so they could build confidence. That's something I could relate to, because that was me at a point or another. And I'm sure that there's at least 1,000 people around planet Earth with that same desire as well. So in terms of personal branding, focus a lot on yourself. That's when you create the best content that'll last long term. And when you're talking in smaller scales, whether it's a one-on-one interaction, whether it's in a group, whether it's in a speech, in situations like that, it's much easier to evaluate their desires. And say your audience is bigger, well, once again, you could switch back to this mindset where you're evaluating your desire. Authenticity always wins, and when you make someone feel heard, that always wins. Those are the 2 winning strategies. So just a quick little recap. There's 5 human desires out there. In order to become a better communicator, stop focusing on the words and the tonality, all that stuff alone, and focus on the deep level stuff. Whoever you're communicating with, do your best to identify their desire and elevate them in that position. And if you're communicating to a mass audience through a YouTube, a blog, a podcast, etc., then situations like that, in order to create content, focus on yourself, evaluate your desires, and create content around that, and you'll attract the right people who will feel elevated from learning from your experience. So overall, this may seem very new to you at first, but eventually after some time, you're going to think, well, why wasn't I doing this all along? Well, it's because as you start investing in the skill, your understanding starts getting deeper and deeper and deeper. But ultimately, communication skills comes down to an understanding of yourself and an understanding of others. It is one of these skill sets that will never go out of style. Heck, it's going to become more and more important as technology is starting to take over a lot of jobs. While some people are panicking, other people are capitalizing and learning how to use the technology to connect with humans on a much deeper level. Start leveling up your communication skills, and I guarantee you, you will build your confidence throughout this journey. Thank you for joining the ArmaniTalks YouTube channel, and I'll catch you on the next episode.